What it do, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of All Caps Capital. We're going to continue to teach and put you guys on the startup and venture capital game while Ahk and I learn it. We've been waiting to talk to our guest today, Carter. And oh my gosh, Carter, I should have asked you. How do you say your last name?
Steffes.
Steffes. Carter Steffes is with us today, and we've been waiting to talk to him for a while. And Carter, you're building a fund in your 20s for people that don't know, which is just freaking crazy. Good for you. Pop off, spearheading this. Why are you building a fund at this age?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think it's similar to a lot of stories. We didn't really start with the intention to build a fund. I previously was working for a fund in New York called Catalio Capital Management that did a lot of company formation in biotech out east. And like a lot of founders, I guess I was just pretty frustrated with my day job. Not that it was a terrible gig or anything, but I was doing a lot of scouting for founders on my nights and weekends, and knew a couple of investors and family offices, and just kind of played matchmaker for fun to keep some skin in the game. And I kind of wanted to get back to early stage tech. I love the people, I love the community. The people are just generally are really inspiring, and love the problems people are going after. And so after a while, just kind of sourcing some deals for some friends, was frustrated that we didn't have a lot of skin in the game. We, meaning me and my business partner, Murtza. And we put together our first syndicate. It's just a weekend project, and had a ton of fun and learned a lot, and just kept building from there. And that's still kind of what we're doing today. We're running SPVs and investing in Gen Z founders all over the country, and still loving it.
I have a quick question. How did you know you guys wanted to do the VC game? What really attracted you guys to do this? Because for everyone that doesn't know, creating your own fund at this age is an old man's game. Usually traditionally a lot of people will come into this game after they had a successful exit in startups, or they've had a couple failed startups, and they now know what's good and what's not. How did you guys create your own moat and just know we got to take the risk and just go do this?
Yeah, so I think probably you guys are talking to a lot of people because you're drawing a lot of inspiration. Talking to folks and learning from them helps you build confidence. I think that was part of it for me. So one, I just don't think I was patient enough to go work my way up the ladder at a firm and just be the classic spin out. I think a third of all emerging managers, probably more, just spin outs from Insight, Sequoia, A16Z, whatever. And that's fine. That route is great. There's tons of smart people, way smarter than me, to do that. But it's just not me. I didn't come from Stanford, Harvard, none of that. Didn't build a startup. Didn't really know much about tech in general until I was 22. My background maybe explains a lot of it. And I stumbled across venture capital when I had no idea what I wanted to do. So when I was an undergrad, I went to a small school in Minnesota, thought I was going to be a dentist. I took all the science courses, was ready to apply to dental school, spent a bunch of time in a dental office and hated it. And at that time, as I was kind of figuring that out and starting to be honest with myself, COVID happened. And so I had a ton of time to kind of reassess where I was at. I graduated. We didn't even have a ceremony, but I was working at a paint store in Moorhead, Minnesota, and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so what I ended up doing was just applying at grad schools, and figured I've lived in Fargo, North Dakota my whole life. Didn't travel a lot growing up, so I guess maybe just had a little bit of self-awareness that my worldview is probably pretty limited. I just didn't know what was out there. So how am I going to figure out what I want to do if I only know this much? I went to the University of Maryland. I was going to get a finance degree. It's a 2-year program, and just use that as time to start trying things out. So I interned at a search fund. I ended up venture scouting. So that was my first foray into tech. Worked at a student founded startup. Went to all the pitch events, met all the founders on campus, and was really just thought it was electric. I think just comparatively, it was night and day, totally uninspired down this dental route, but just had kind of accepted it. This is what my life is going to be. And thank God I didn't. And then, transitioning to talking to founders who are at the tip of the spear in whatever industry they're in, oftentimes who better to learn from, right? And everyone wants to be in a role where they're learning all the time.
Yeah.
But also just on the fulfillment side, not every part of venture is fulfilling, but I think being involved in just startups in general is can be like a pretty satisfying endeavor. If you're working on something that you just feel so passionate about that you're willing to climb up this like crazy mountain that seems impossible to get up. Right. And I love people like that are willing to take those risks, and I want to back them. And so, that's kind of where we're at. That's why I was drawn to venture specifically. I think for us, like starting a firm, it's like hard right away. So we were doing these one-off SPVs. I think we had done like 4 deals before I left.
What's an SPV for people that don't know?
Yeah, great question. So an SPV is a special purpose vehicle. Basically, rather than investing out of one large fund vehicle where we've got $5 million, and if we decide we want to write a check, we can just wire the money tomorrow, sign a term sheet, and go. What we do is we go out and find deals, and when we think one is compelling enough, we write up a deal memo, and break down the market, the team, the problem solution, everything, and then we go to our investor base. We've got a little over 100 investors, and we send them our deal memo. We send them why we think this is an interesting deal. And basically it's just a yes or no for our investors. And anyone that wants to join can write an angel check. And basically we tape together all these $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 checks and write one check together. So we're the manager, we're the advisor to it. We hence do a lot of the work, but the magic of it for the founder, I think, is one, you get me and Murph on your team, but also you get all these investors that really were a very large part of the decision. A lot of our investors are super smart. We learn a lot about them. It's amazing to be able to engage with them on every deal, and they see things that we don't see a lot of times. So I guess in starting a fund, that's been like a blessing. We've been able to learn way faster than if I had a rich buddy that could write us a $5,000 check and we just start going. I think we've made much better decisions because of it. And so it's a great way to scale into raising a fund and learning how to be good at this business.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I really like just from when we first met was that I really feel a lot of your kind of like your moat, your special keys, this driven obsession and passion for the game. And I feel like it's like there's some people that go in for the title and for this like recognition and all that, but you're like, when I talk to you, it's like for the love of the game. It's like for the love of just kind of like putting things out there. And I feel like there's not that's the superpower of being young into the venture world. You feel me? Like I don't know. I'm super for pushing just to say like screw it. Like I'm gonna do it. I might not have all the accolades. I might not have all the knowledge, but I'll figure it out along the way. And that's like, I mean, do you think like emerging funds is very similar to running a startup? Like, you think not? Like, why are there not more younger people doing this? More younger people just taking the leap and doing what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for the kind words. Definitely feel the same about you guys, and feel the same thing about the founders that we back. It's a big reason why we do it as well. Why more fund managers don't do this? I think there's going to be more younger fund managers coming up. Venture's a risky asset class as it is. And you're oftentimes taking in money from folks that have already kind of made their wealth, and maybe they have a more defensive stance. And it's if you don't have a track record, what else can they make a decision off of? They're really making a bet on you. And I think that's true for us. A lot of the folks that are investing in us, they like the deals. We're able to explain why every deal is incredible. But I think honestly, there's probably some people that are making bets on us. So I think if you want to be an early stage manager, the early stage managers, the younger unproven managers that you see kind of emerge over the next couple of years, they're probably folks that have been building their network through something or other for the last couple of years, because those first investors will be people that believed in them. But also another reason why I think there might be more young unproven managers is just because returns in VC have been somewhat abysmal. I mean, you can find Sequoia's returns over the last several years, and oftentimes these big firms are not beating the market, and they're not even selling it. Yeah, I think a lot of them are just selling this. We're going to index venture, we're going to see everything. And they raise these multi-billion-dollar funds, but then there's no alpha, and so maybe institutions and pensions and endowments will kind of realize that they want to get back to investing in this cottage industry that venture was, where they do have that potential to see those outsized returns and see a 30-40% IRR. And I think by investing in like these young guns that are really unproven, that have no choice but to succeed and have no choice to be incredibly thoughtful and concentrated in their positions, I think you're more likely to see those kinds of returns. And we've seen it like play out in history, and you name it. I mean, Chris Sacca is a legend.
I
Obviously,
love Chris Sacca.
That's the one that comes to mind for everyone.
Yeah.
That was a $5 million fund. His first fund, that was a 250 banger or whatever. $5 million fund. So, yeah, hopefully institutions kind of realize that or come back to center there. But if not, I think it's just people being willing to bet on people, because that's what it's going to be if you don't have a track record.
Yeah, I love Chris Sacca. Like, that dude, honestly, my like venture inspiration, just because like he's just like him, and like we're not like in the term of like the slang term like him. I mean, he is that guy when in the venture world. But like, I love the way that he kind of like maneuvers, and he also talks about the importance of like not being so defensive in this game, because it is like, it is a scary place. It is like it's a lot of risk, a lot of things going on there. But like he was saying that the benefits of him just going offensive and trying to build deeper connections with founders is what allowed him to make these crazy wins. Yeah. And so I just feel like, I don't know, it's like you have to move when you're building an emerging fund, and I'm talking out of my ass, like I haven't done any of this, so like, you know, like I'm not like you, bro. So it's like I'm just an opinionated person that just likes to talk about random shit. So it's like, it's just like, I feel that like an emerging fund is just like building a startup, like I was saying earlier, and it's like you just got to go out there and just learn by making mistakes, and then you just build that credit by being in the game. It's what is it like? It's like a trade, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like when you're in a trade, you're welding or you're doing something like that, you learn by just reps. And I feel that's the same with startups and same with investing. You just learn through reps. And it's just crazy that we have this belief that it just everything, and we have to build all this credibility before we actually take action, rather than just taking the action. Yeah, so it's just that was just my yap fest.
and to that point, investors expect their founders to kind of fly without a net and take big heavy swings and risks. So why do we hold ourselves to a different standard as investors?
Exactly.
And take a defensive stance in investing, and you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot at that point.
Yeah. All right.
I want to build off of the older institutions not taking a chance like you guys are at Newer Ventures, Carter, on young bucks, first time founders. Why has there been a drawback? And it's obviously riskier. Like, VC itself is a risky asset space, and then even more so, investing in first time founders could be an even more riskier bet. But we've been seeing it play off, like you mentioned, a lot better and a lot more successful with previous ventures and previous young startup founders, just by being more creative in how they're building their companies, understanding their target demographics for whatever they're building, their vertical SaaS companies, their consumer products. And you've been like doing that sort of yourself with your fund. And I'm curious, this whole conversation around credibility, what do you think are some things that have been causing the credibility barrier, and how have you been able to like work around that with building a fund? And then also maybe, this comes to mind first, with some of the Gen Z founders you've been helping, how have they been able to get around that credibility barrier? Because I feel like that's something Ahk and I have been facing with just people that we want to hop on a phone call with for like 10 minutes, just not giving us the time of day. Obviously it makes sense. It makes sense, but I'm curious, how have you found success?
We track our emails, we track open rates and
finding
stuff,
a workaround
that way,
the credibility barrier.
But if anyone's engaged, you just keep chipping away, and eventually I think folks respect you as they realize that this person's not giving up, this person's learning really quickly. I think that's like an important aspect of people, keeping people in touch. But I guess for someone like
you
us,
have to.
You are and you guys too, like we don't have any choice but to keep going, right? I mean, do we just like fold because we don't have the credibility and just kind of succumb to the pressure of working up the corporate ladder, like many of our peers will? Like, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But if that's not who you want to be, then you really don't have any choice but to just kind of accept it and find creative ways. I think, yeah, I mean, when I quit my job, I remember one specific conversation. I have a good friend whose dad has done a bunch of venture and private equity investing. And so, my buddy doesn't offer connections to his family very often. He's like, oh, you should talk to my dad, tell him about what you're building. And he gave me the time of day. He's very respectful to me, listened to me talk for maybe 20 minutes. And it's like, don't do this. This is stupid. You're way better off, he was a banking guy, going to work for Goldman, or, going to work, you have a great job right now. Why would you quit it? Like, in 20 years, you could be making X amount of dollars or doing, these kind of deals if you just stick it out and like trust in the process. But it wasn't what I was really like happy with. It's not the vision I saw for my life. And I figured I make decisions the same way I think a lot of entrepreneurs will. Like, thought, okay, well, like, he's probably right about a lot of these things, but if I don't take this leap that I feel super compelled to do right now, will I regret it? And the answer is obviously yes. And so, we're a year into this and there's still a ton of uncertainty. We're still not investing out of a big commingled fund where I'm pulling fees that are lucrative or anything. It's still hard out here. We're still on ramen budgets, but I'm incredibly pleased with what we learned. I think my partner would say the same. And every week we're meeting more and more amazing people. And so I guess it depends what you want to benchmark yourself against. And I think I strayed a little bit away from your question, but
no, I that's the whole point. This is a jam out session, so we just here to like just talk about whatever, whatever comes up. But I wanted to build on top of that one point. Is like, it's crazy because sometimes it's really not about the money. It's about, am I gonna regret this in the future, or am I gonna beat myself up? Because I in my opinion, I don't know. Like, I know there's all these risks, but I feel like the corporate life is always going to be there. There's always going to be a need to go back, or a need to do that. And I feel like you will gain respect by taking the risk of like, I try to go build a fund. I try to go build this startup. Didn't work out. Now I'm back trying to build back, the finances to maybe go up to the batter's box again. I definitely butchered that saying. I don't even know what I meant by that, but go up to bat up. And I mean, just like, like, it's just like, it's crazy to me that how many people, it's really not that. It's just like, it's just so straightforward that you could just go and do it. And like, I come from, I have a lot of responsibilities with my family, a lot of responsibilities with these other things. And, that caused me to have to go into the corporate world and, strive to go in the corporate world to support my family. But at the same time, like, I don't want to lose this edge of like, I want to build in my nights and mornings. And I feel like even if you can't, like, just keep trying. You feel me? Like, and that's why I love what you're doing, bro. You just said like, fuck it. Like, let me just go try. Like, and now I'm going to move forward. I'm going to like, to one thing is, what is this? Is there any stigma with building in North Dakota, like in Fargo, North Dakota? Like, that's just not where you hear these crazy, emerging funds, investment firms, stuff like that being built there. Is there any backlash you got from it? Anything? Because the one thing that I really believe is like, bro, if you're able to build a firm there, I feel like anybody can go and do it anywhere. You feel me?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think we get some like sideways heads from Powder sometimes. Once I explain kind of like why I'm here in my background, if I just get the chance to, talk about myself a little bit, I think folks respect it. And really, it doesn't really matter too much at the end of the day, because if someone's going to disrespect us because of where we're located, what we, exactly. So, I mean, background is I'm from North Dakota, born and raised ND boy. You grew up in Fargo, went to college kind of 20 minutes away. Your family has a farm 25 minutes away, and you work there in the summers. And
that's so tough.
You don't want to talk to
anyone. It's kind of,
you don't want to talk
like
to them if
anyone
that's the
in
case.
their home, or most people in their home. It's very close to my heart. And at the time that Mertz's and I started to invest in some deals, it was summer 2023. Still a very, very hard time to raise money for any manager. Still is, but definitely kind of the trough around then. And I kept up with what was going on back home. North Dakota's got an interesting kind of developing capital landscape here, because of mostly like oil revenues over the last couple decades. So as soon as they started fracking out west in North Dakota. The state taxed everything that came out of the ground and formed a sovereign wealth fund called the North Dakota Legacy Fund. And a couple of years ago, that legacy fund allocated, I think it's $100 million towards venture managers and private equity managers in the
That's
state.
crazy.
But as you might expect, there's not a lot of venture managers here or private equity managers. So to me, just right off the bat, it's like, okay, that on its own is kind of an opportunity. Also, there's not a lot of startups here. I mean, a lot more than there was 10 years ago, a lot more than there was 5 years ago. That's the beauty of an emerging ecosystem and when there's the incentive to build. So I thought, okay, well, like Murtaz and I have interesting deal flow from the perspective of like a Midwestern LP, seeing kind of everything on the coast and between the coast that we can. And so we might offer kind of a different product, and we're younger. There's definitely not a lot of younger managers here either. And yeah, a good chance to kind of like lean into the homeboy story and build something back home in a place that I care about. And then just from a business perspective, I think there's definitely going to be like some unsung heroes and like unique finds here that we maybe wouldn't see, deals that we wouldn't see if we were on the coast. And so if we're already seeing all these deals on the coast and we're having no problem because we live in the age of Zoom, why not lean into our own like personal advantage here? And we might find some like super interesting things here and be able to play a huge role in building a company that could have, crazy, awesome effects for the ecosystem here and to create all kinds of jobs and inspire future founders in a place where young people usually have to leave when they want to do something ambitious. Most ambitious people in the Midwest go to SF, or they go to New York. And so the idea is that, maybe 10 years from now, more of the ambitious people will come to us first before deciding to, leave and go to the coast.
I mean, this is the one thing that me and Murph were talking about, is that Seattle, even though we're a big, we're a fairly sized tech hub, is like these young kids like us are leaving to SF in New York because those are the funds that are willing to take a chance on them. Over here in Seattle, like you won't get it. There's no fellowships. No VC firm will give a time of day. I mean, we even had one VC firm that is like pretty active in Seattle called Descend, and their general partner was talking about this. That's the problem. That's why we are not keeping these young innovators here, is because nobody's giving the time of day. But then you're doing that. You're going out here, you're like, yeah, I'm about to be that person that gives the time of day. And it's like, dog, that is so cool, bro. That is so cool.
No, I appreciate it, man. So I imagine it's just like a lot of Amazon and Microsoft spinouts.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 15-year AWS veteran, the third-time startup founder, startup founder. That's the Seattle like archetype for a founder that gets funded here by a Seattle VC firm. It's, there's a lot of kids that like, I got one of my friends, 20, got 2 AI research papers through, our school at UW, and he's a crazy builder. He's struggling to even let some VC firms give him, the time of day to learn about the industry or, as he's building his projects and stuff like that. Like, it's crazy to me. And a lot of my friends that are the best builders that I know, they're in SF right now. They're in SF trying to build their connections, trying to build, what they're doing, or they go to New York, they try to go join some sort of fellowship out there, and then they end up staying there because there's more of a community for them out there. There's no, the biggest thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to build some sort of community where people, no matter where they're coming from, feel like they have people to talk to and they can build out their hometown and be the hometown hero like you are. And it's just like, it's crazy to me that Seattle is so lucrative with so much tech talent that they don't want to take a chance on some of the young folks that are, trying to go out. They just have to go to SF to find that.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have something already. It sounds like you just keep digging in on it, right?
Exactly. I want to build off this like kind of unique perspective you were touching on, Carter, that, nobody else in your area is kind of doing what you're doing. And in a way that's a weakness because it's new, like kind of for, young Seattle founders, like compared to the AWS Microsoft 15-year veterans, it's hard for them to find a community to build. But I see that as like kind of an advantage. I'm curious if you see that as an advantage as well, and like how it's a perceived weakness at the same time. How can that be turned into its strength, especially for a young person that has like no damn clue what they're doing, what do you think could be like a first step for them to start working towards that goal of theirs? Because you're in it for all the right reasons. You're trying to help underrepresented founders, whether they're in the Midwest or from coast to coast, like get to that next step. If somebody else is trying to do that themselves, what would you recommend they do? That first step they take.
Yeah. Just start talking to people and finding like your first champions, people that see the world the same as you, or at least close to you, and working with them, and learning from them and being open with them, and vulnerable. And your first champions are the folks that are going to like open up other doors for you, and you'll hopefully be honest with you and just help you learn a little bit quicker than someone that's just going to sugarcoat everything and make sure you feel good. So I think finding your champions is a good way to go, especially in a smaller community where it might be kind of harder to break in a sense.
Yeah.
Even though it's smaller, like maybe it's like tighter knit and everyone maybe keeps to themselves or wouldn't want to bring in something new or daring or whatever. And by finding one or two champions that can kind of advocate for you and build with you, I think that's one way to kind of hack it.
How long did it take you to find those champions? Because I've heard basically a lot of sayings and stuff like that. And I'm experiencing this right now. Me and Murph talk about it all the time, right? So when you first start out, like the friends that you built out, in college and stuff like that, don't quite understand what you're trying to do. And so it feels lonely for some time, and you haven't yet built the credibility to be in those tight knit circles that you're talking about, or find those champions where they'll be like, hey man, it's dope what you're working on. Like, let's work on together and build together. Did you go through that lonely phase? And how did you find those champions? How were you able to get, find the right people, right community to help you keep going in this?
Yeah, sure. It really, I don't think I have like a super sexy answer other than just like talking to a lot of people. And like, hey, you jump on the phone with someone or a Zoom call, you usually know in like the first 5 or 10 minutes if you're like really going to jam with them. And when you do, you just like lean into it and you stay in touch, you help them out, kind of figure out what they're looking for and help them out where you can and just keep it top of mind. So I mean, like any business and anything, just the more you can bring to someone else, generally the more it kind of comes back to you. Like being selfless is in a way like the most selfish thing that you can do. Especially at scale and when you're meeting a lot of people. I say that's probably the best way to do it in mind.
Yeah. What's the biggest kind of like struggles you have faced building this firm? And talk us through the kind of like the insecurities and stuff that come with it, because we want to show that it's being in VC is sexy, but there's some like harder parts on it. And how did you overcome, or how are you overcoming these insecurities? Because it's similar to building a startup.
I mean, for example, before you start, like the biggest insecurity that me and Ahk have is like posting out content, being like, damn, our friends are gonna see this and we gotta see them tomorrow, and like they're gonna be yapping at us and like stuff like that. It's kind of stuff like it can be as simple as that or something more deep, more personal. But yeah, I'm curious, like what kind of insecurities, like
the hardest thing for me the hardest thing for me that I tell Murph, when we joke about this all the time, is when girls come up to me and they're like, oh, I heard about your podcast. I just get mad embarrassed. Like I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I don't know what to say.
Oh, dude, some girl's gonna love that someday. Some girl's gonna be like all about shareholder value.
Yeah.
She's like, this is the guy.
I need him.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many things I could dump on you guys. Working with founders is hard. Like, something me and merchants always say is like if a founder that we want to invest in us doesn't like scare us or intimidate us a little bit, like it's probably not an investment we want to make. You're talking to like these really smart, driven, no bullshit people, and in the back of our heads we're like that one scene from SpongeBob where he's like looking for something in that burning room. Like, I don't know, like can we
they're throwing all the
like the first deal we did was in this company called Mentra. That's a hiring platform for neurodivergent individuals. And I had a friend that joined the company as an engineer. They raised a big seed round from Scott Belsky, Sean Capital, and Sam Altman. And I had been telling my friend Brian that, me and this guy that I met that I've been talking with for a while, we want to start a syndicate. We want to invest in a couple deals. And when we came across Mentra, we were really excited by it. I'd listened to my friend Brian just like boast about how bullish he was on it, why he is betting his career on it and joining it so early. And he set me up for dinner with one of the founders when he was coming to New York. And so I was in like my monkey suit from like the private equity firm I was at, and rolled into some like greasy Thai place to eat with him, and sat with him for 2 hours and kind of like pitched him on who we were. And I was just kind of like figuring it out as I was saying it too, because we hadn't done a deal before, and so I had to be really open with him that we hadn't, but still confidently tell him like, yeah, we'll invest 30K. We'll go to our syndicate members and do it. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, what syndicate members? Like, we don't have any syndicate members.
That's a true hustler right there.
This is awesome. This is awesome. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then when we raised money for them, we cold emailed so many people. We asked every single friend for favors. And like we were like 3 weeks into it and had no money, or maybe we had like a 5K check. And so we just like kept going, and eventually like I had a friend introduce me to a friend who came in, and we ended up writing $15,000 check, which is much lower than we said we would. And luckily the founder took it. And me and my partner had to pay the admin fee, so we weren't taking so much out of our investors' pocket with the fee. And so really like ate shit for a long time, and like so that was hard, but like we got done with it and we're like, okay, well, we did it. Like,
yeah,
fuck it, let's try it again. Maybe it'll go a little bit better next time. We met a bunch of people throughout this process, and got a bunch of good questions about our memo. I mean, our memo was like so vanilla and like bad and like non-discerning. And some of it was great. I still would like give ourselves like a few pats on the back, but like, yeah, we just didn't know what we didn't know, and it still happens. Like, we'll still send out a memo to our investors, and I'll get a question that I just like wasn't expecting, and I'll feel stupid. I'm like, damn, like how did I not address this when we were in the diligence process? And so I guess just being comfortable with eating shit is something that's required. With founders, like founders do like the same shit that VCs do sometimes too, especially when you're a smaller investor. So like we've gotten pushed out of rounds before, where we were kind of like promised allocations. That's tough because we're communicating with our LPs, and then it just makes us look bad. That's tough to like get up from and then go find the next deal. What else? Just storytelling for New Era. I remember I met this guy who's based in Minnesota who ran a family office for an NBA player. And I have a friend like really vouched for me.
Sick.
He's like, you should meet this guy. And it was like 3 or 4 months into what we were doing. I was so nervous to meet them, which in hindsight is just so stupid. Like, it's so dumb. He was so chill and like ready to chat. He knew I played basketball in high school, and so we got like 5 minutes into the call, and I like started pitching New Era, and I had like a panic attack and like forgot what I was saying, and it was super embarrassing. And like, I was like, yo, dude, like, can we just like reschedule? And he was cool about it on the call, and then like just never followed up with me again, or never got to talk to him. So like things like that, like it's like, okay, that was a little embarrassing, but I'm glad it happened.
Failure is the best lesson. Failure is the best lesson, and it allows you to 10x your growth. You feel me? Or like when things just don't go your way, I feel like you never forget that, and that's a superpower.
Yeah, absolutely. Other things like I have friends send me jobs every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
That's like feels like a huge slap in the face sometimes.
Like,
in like outside, I'm like, thank you. Like, I appreciate that you're like a loving friend, but also like, fuck you for thinking I'm going to quit on this kind of thing. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel that. So I hope like if any of our startup founders see this, like maybe they can relate to it. I guess just pulling it way back to like earlier discussion, I think this is part of our advantage too with founders. We try to be really open, like, yo, we're like figuring this out. We don't know if this is going to work out. We can't promise you a lot. Like, we maybe don't have like a contact database like Sequoia has and can, get you customers like lickety split, but we'll bust ass for you and see what happens. And I think some founders that go to vouch for us, some teams that we've invested in, we've helped more than others, and you just kind of figure it out as you go. But you can kind of work through the insecurity by just doing things. Really, just keep doing things and figuring them out. That's the only way you build confidence in anything, right? It's the same thing as talking to girls.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about that. So
we can compare that. We can compare that all day.
All right, man. I want to tell you, like, please don't stop going. Like, truly, the story, the authenticity that you brought on today really goes to show that, like, man, like if you really put your mind to it, you can be unstoppable. Like you will be unstoppable. And like, bro, please don't stop. Like I am going to see you as one of them top dogs out there, and you're gonna put your hometown on the map, and it's gonna be so lit, bro. So thank you so much for hopping on with us and being so vulnerable and sharing just like everything about the space and how, you know, maybe there's one kid that's been thinking about this and finally takes the leap just because they heard your story. So thank you so much, man.
Thank you guys, and right back at you. Just keep hustling, keep interviewing people, keep emailing them as many times as you have to.
Yeah, we had our 1,000th rejection. No, hey, any way that people can get connected with you, if there's any founders out there that are listening and want to connect with you, what is the best way to get in contact with you? Is that Twitter X? Or what's the best way? What do you want to, what socials do you want to put out there for the world?
Yeah, hit me up on X. I'll probably be most active on X, LinkedIn. I'm trying to figure out what my X handle is. It's just last name, first name, Steffes Carter. But yeah, I think I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. So hit me up, I guess.
All right, go show them some love. All right, thank you so much, man. We'll catch you in the next time, everybody. Hopefully, we will come back with something just every week. We're going to keep going at it, just like Carter. We're going to keep going at it. Appreciate y'all. Hey, peace. Yeah.